Today is the final day for roster cutdowns, meaning the Pittsburgh Steelers have made many changes to this roster, and that included cutting 16 players. But first, before I get more into each of them, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. Also like this video. Now, let's get right into it. So, 2 days ago, the Pittsburgh Steelers cut a handful of players, but now today and yesterday, the Pittsburgh Steelers have cut even more, and that includes 16 of them. So, let's go through the list. Yesterday, the Pittsburgh Steelers have decided to cut wide receiver Max Hurlman, wide receiver Lance McCutcheon, running back Lou Nichols, tight end J.J. Galbraith, offensive lineman Stephen Jones and Aiden Williams, defensive tackle Kyler Baugh, linebacker Mark Robinson and Julius Welshulf, cornerback Daryl Porter Jr., and Deshaun Jameson, and kicker Ben Souls. And now today, the Pittsburgh Steelers have also decided to cut these players. Wide receiver Robert Woods, offensive tackle Dylan Cook, edge rusher DeMarvin Leal, edge rusher Iku Leota, and punter Cameron Johnston. So, those are all the players the Pittsburgh Steelers have released thus far, and there are still many more to come, but I'll cover that in tomorrow's video along with the final 53-man roster, since it will be set at 4 p.m. Eastern Time today. So, looking at the players the Pittsburgh Steelers have cut from the team, there are some surprises here. There aren't many, but there are a few. So let's go through them. The biggest surprise was punter Cameron Johnston, because he has been a consistent punter throughout his career. The Pittsburgh Steelers last season, before the start of it, gave him a 3-year, $9 million contract. So it seemed like he was locked in to be the Steelers punter for at least 3 years. But he got injured last season at the beginning with a torn ACL. Corliss Waitman has took over, and he continues to be the punter moving forward because the Steelers keep him on the roster instead of Cameron Johnston, save some money, and cut Johnston. So that was a little bit of a surprise because Johnston has been consistent throughout his career, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have decided to go with the bigger leg and maybe the less consistent one. But anyway, Waitman has earned the job through camp battles and the preseason, and obviously through last season as well, being a really good punter for the team. So, Cameron Johnston wasn't officially released thus far, but the team announced it, saying they have terminated his contract. They could still end up trading him before the deadline at 4 p.m., but as of right now, it looks like he's off of the team for good. Also, there is another surprise, and that's inside linebacker Mark Robinson. The Steelers had decided to cut him, and it was between him and Carson Bruner for that final inside linebacker spot. And it's not that big of a surprise because Carson Bruner, the Steelers just drafted this year, meaning they have him under contract for at least the next 4 years, and Mark Robinson's contract would be up after this season. So if they wanted more security and keeping someone long term, they would keep him, and that's why they did, and Mark Robinson's gone. And obviously, if you can't really decide between the two, you're going to take the guy with more security. But anyway, Mark Robinson, he's been solid for the Pittsburgh Steelers, a really good special teamer, a really good run defender, a big hitter, and now he's off the team. Hopefully, he can make it back on this practice squad, but he's going to be missed for sure. And he was always one of my favorite players to watch on the defense because of how hard he tries and goes 100% all the time, and just a wrecking ball in the middle of the field. He wasn't really given that full opportunity to be a success in terms of take over at the inside linebacker spot because of the players they keep bringing in at that linebacker spot and trading for, or in terms of signing free agency. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have cut him from the team, and hopefully he gets the opportunity somewhere else. So the one last surprise that is cut from this roster is DeMarvin Leal, and that's because he had a really good camp and a really good preseason thus far. And he showed out that he can be the edge rusher that the Pittsburgh Steelers fans wanted him to convert to all this time. He was just converted to the edge rusher basically this past season and this season, and he's finally trying to come into his own, but now he won't have the opportunity because he's cut from this roster. He was a 3rd-round pick not too many years back, and the Steelers have decided to go elsewhere. Hopefully he can make it back on this practice squad as well, but who knows? Another team may give him opportunity to actually make their roster. But DeMarvin Leal is a shock because maybe you thought he could have stayed if Derek Harmon went on injury reserve or the Pittsburgh Steelers decided to cut one of their other defense linemen, but no. They decided that DeMarvin Leal would be the cut, even though he has made progress, even though the coaches so far this preseason have talked really good about him, he is still cut from this team. So that's the final little surprise. There's really only 3 guys where you're just like, oh, are they going to cut them? Well, they did, and those are the 3. Now, can there be more as the day goes along, and as we know the final 53-man roster? Yes, but as of this far, those are the 3 that you really were shocked by. Also, there's one more player that the Pittsburgh Steelers have cut that wasn't shocking, but at the beginning of the offseason, you would have thought maybe he would have made this team, but as it went along, you knew he wouldn't, and that's Robert Woods. Robert Woods has not made this team. He was a veteran. He was supposed to be that route runner, that secure veteran in the locker room at the wide receiver core, but no, he's cut from the team, and that's because he really hasn't shown anything throughout camp. He hasn't shown that he could provide through the preseason as well. He just hasn't shown out. And other players like Scotty Miller has shown out this camp and preseason, shown that he can be on this team and make some plays. Robert Woods has obviously done a bulk load of work throughout his career, so you thought maybe it was more secure. But anyway, Robert Woods has gone older, his play has diminished, and the Steelers just see no need for him in the locker room and no need for him on the team. It was reported that he could potentially rejoin this team at a later date if something goes wrong and they need another wide receiver, but as of right now, he's off the team, and it's not a surprise. So now, I'm just going to go through some other players who were cut from this team and talk a little bit about them. And that's Dylan Cook. Dylan Cook was cut from this team. I had him potentially making this 53-man roster, but him being cut from the team opens the door for Calvin Anderson's injury to maybe not be as serious and him make the 53-man roster. And it opens the door for Andres Pete to make this roster as well. And he's a guy who's a veteran who's with the Saints, was really good, and he was signed later this offseason, later throughout the preseason, and it gives him a chance. So that's something you could take away from the Dylan Cook release. Also, there's other players who were released from this team that have a chance to make this practice squad, or at least you would hope can make this practice squad. And that is a player like Evan Hull, who was released a few days ago, Lou Nichols, who was released, Max Hurleman, who was released. Those are some players who showed out during camp, showed out during the preseason, and that you knew weren't going to make the team, but you hope can be back on this practice squad because they can bring something if they need to play a game here and there or need to take over because of injuries. So those are some players who were cut that I just wanted to talk about, bring up, because they have a chance to be special if given the right opportunity or a chance with a different team. Me personally, I've always been high on Mark Robinson and his potential, especially because he hasn't had that much time being converted from a running back into a linebacker to actually play a linebacker position. He's done good in his first few years playing this position on a brand new level, and I believe he can be special, but he's just never been given the opportunity. But anyway, that is the end of this video, and those are the 17 players the Pittsburgh Steelers have decided to cut within the last 2 days. And like I said, the deadline is 4 p.m. Eastern time today to cut their roster to 53 men. So obviously the Pittsburgh Steelers have many more to do, and they're going to have to cut around 14 more players to get down to that number. So I'll have that all covered tomorrow. But for this video, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on each of those players who were released from this team. Did you have any of those players making the 53-man roster? Did you want any of them to? And what are your thoughts on their chances to make this practice squad or their chances to show out in a different home? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below for that. And also, make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news, updates, highlights, analysis reports. Everything surrounding this team, I have you covered all season long. The season starts up shortly, and just like I covered all the offseason, I'll cover all of that as well. So stay tuned for all the news and rumors and the video tomorrow. And I'll see you guys all later. That's it for me today. But till next time, I'm out. Peace.